All right, so it's 5:15. We'll get the meeting started. Call to order. I guess our first step is to approve January 4th minutes.
And then also, this is under number 4 typo and the word included that needs to be struck.
Any other comments on the minutes?
I just when I was reading item 3 minutes that M. Stickle suggested 2 visits and then he could address the group.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. I apologize.
That's right. I was saying the M. Stickle suggested 2 visits and then he could address the group, which is accurate, but it doesn't say why. So I was just curious, do we need to have a little more detail? I mean, I just checked with her and she said basically she thought that he should go do a site visit, have a little time to assess, and then come see us afterwards.
I remember that.
But the question is, my question is process now. How detailed do we really need to have with me? Because it seems kind of trivial just to say something. Anyway, I haven't read the minutes that carefully. It just struck me if this is truly going to be something that we can refer to in terms of processing what really is going on, how detailed do we want?
I don't think it's unreasonable to add that. I do remember she did say that 2 visits and then come visit. So.
Well, no, she did say that, but the question was, and it's in there.
Oh,
The question is why, right? And
I don't believe she expressed that.
She did, and I actually checked with her, but it's less important exactly what she said about this. And more important than it struck me is how substantive do we need to have these conversations to be appropriate for minutes? That's what I really want. And I use that as an example as to why she said, what the why was. And I'm fine with it this way, just sort of a quick hand. I was just curious what the best thing is because this is for a public.
Did she express what?
Yeah, I mean I asked her what she said, just because I wanted to be complete. And basically she said 2 visits, he should go visit the site.
Yeah.
All right. Work on it, think about it, cogitate whatever he's going to do, and then come see the whole group afterwards. As opposed to we were at the time talking about us visiting the site, and then that would be his visit, and not come back with ideas. Just so the point then was just he was going to submit a proposal in writing, as opposed to coming back to the committee to actually present the proposal so we could ask. Anyway, I didn't want to spend a whole lot of time. I just wanted to ask what's your is too detailed, it's new to it.
You're right. I mean, by law, you need to include, the votes that were taken, who was there. I mean, there's very minimum type standards that you have to follow. You could be as detailed as you want. You could scale it back. I mean, it's really up for discussion. People feel if they're not adequate, they want to have more detail. We can discuss that.
Just having served on a few boards in town, and, different situations that come up. Inevitably, the time when you don't have everything written in the minutes is when you need them. But it's almost impossible to get all of the intent and verbiage. I mean, it's Aaron does a good job with his minutes, but most committees don't have good note taking. Unless you're reporting, which. I think it's nice to have, but I don't think there's a requirement.
And actually, we just brought a little bit. If they are recorded, then if somebody has a question, we can actually go back and get the detail. I think
that's one of the good things about it.
I was going to say, you take some solace knowing Laura's doing recordings. We're moving towards recordings, and knowing that we'll have that record.
So my question about and forgive me if I misunderstood how we left this. I didn't think we were having Jeff come back twice because he waived the per diem.
Right.
No, right.
Yeah, having a 2:00 meeting, right?
Right.
And then we're asking him to come back here at 4:30.
Oh, right.
We're at warm.
I apologize. That I recall. Okay.
Right. That's in here.
You're working, so you want to be able to.
And then he's going to go away and finish work on his RFP.
Fair enough. Thank you for that.
No, so he's gonna do a site visit.
Yes.
And then he's coming back here that same, the guys driving back over here to have a meeting with him.
Yep.
And then he's going away and then submitting a report to us.
I believe that's our intent.
I think there were some questions about his proposal that we just wanted clarity on. I think the board has supported the idea of hiring him. But I think we just wanted to be clear that he was checking all the boxes that we wanted. And to make sure that the fee that he has proposed is adequate. Because I think that he put in for $7,600.
Yeah.
But I think there were some things that we wanted to make that he didn't speak of, like was it core sampling or what have you, or groundwork that if he needed to subcontract out, or if it was something that he could handle that we wanted to verify. That was part of the initial RFP.
Yeah, it was a wetlands question.
I don't think I was expecting him to do a report now. Just that,
Right, right then.
that total day was to get to know him and get to have some interaction and ideas and stuff. Select board then at that point, we need to make a decision. Very
Makes something that.
Fair enough.
good. Second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. All right, so next step is to confirm that the January 23rd meeting with Mr. Senders is a good timing for everybody that can attend.
Yes,
2:00, I believe, on the 23rd, and then 4:30 afterwards.
Do we have an idea who will be there on that afternoon, or later in the
No,
afternoon?
no.
Okay. We have Doug, Tim,
Okay.
Mike, and then you'll be here at 4:30.
We have a select board
I
meeting.
can do 4:30 or 4:30 if you want me there. Yeah, I mean, sure.
Thursday, correct?
Tuesday.
I'll have to check my schedule. I may not be able to make it there, but I'll try. Something's coming up. All right, so now the main reason why we're here is to as far as the select board's concerned, when we do ordinance reviews or to push towards the voters, we have to have a public hearing. So we'll have to schedule a public hearing in the next 3-4 weeks at the latest. So it's my hope that we can get through this ordinance proposal so that we can review it next select board meeting, and then have the select board make a decision to move it to a public meeting. So
And you're gonna want 2 copies of next complaint and 1 marking changes.
So, yeah, so like the one that we're talking about tonight, the most recent one you sent, I mean, there'd be no question marks, things like that.
No, I.
Right.
You're great.
Okay.
So when I say markup, I'm talking about making an obvious, typo where they after the 1988 and the 2023 were amended. I'm gonna go back, once we're done, we're happy with this draft. Once we're done, I'm gonna go back and compare the documents and give you the underlines and the crossouts and the new everything. But it makes it really difficult to read. So I thought I would give you 2 versions. One, which is clean, meaning no question marks, no highlights, no underlining, no nothing. Just this. And another one that has the comparison, markup comparison between the one that's in existence right now and the one that we're.
So my experience with this is do it the way you've been doing it, show the markups. When we go to town meeting and people want to know, that's exactly what they're looking at. And then it's cleaned up afterwards. Right? So people are gonna come to us and they're gonna say, where are the changes that you made? Where's the new language? Where's the old language? So just have it there, just like you have it now with the underline and the.
Oh, it's gonna look a lot messier with that. It's just a ton of changes.
I guess I would just add to that my experience has been that we take the old ordinance, the original ordinance, and that's what you work with.
Right.
And if there's a paragraph or the whole page missing, it all gets just underlined and removed. So that you've got this is what it is, but this is changing.
Right.
So is that, are we in agreement with that? Do that?
I'll definitely be the way you need to present it to the town. I was just trying to help the board, making it nice. Don't.
It's the way it is. I'm used to it in English, so it's all right. So, if you would, I think we all had the opportunity to go through it, make our adjustments and recommendations.
The homework.
Yes, the homework. Okay, so
Could I say a few things?
go ahead.
So a couple of things. After our last meeting, George spent a lot of time going through definitions and getting rid of a lot of irrelevant stuff, and all that cleaned it really made it a lot more concise. So this reflects that, and now almost nothing that's defined isn't in the text. And I think we caught everything that's in the text that's not defined, so I did one last cleanup. So what I tried to do was condense where some of the outstanding differences are among all of our comments. Like Chris put in a comment and I couldn't reconcile it by myself. So I left it in there. And so, for example, first thing I think, section 2, it talks about George had a comment to something that Zach had. So I was thinking about if this makes sense for us, instead of going through word by word, maybe we can at least go through those things that I highlighted. I can say to you that a question kind of answer issue. So we can maybe get through that first, if that makes sense.
It's your pleasure.
So you're talking about the language that George has proposed and Zach has proposed.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and so I wanted to do the yellow highlights so that it'd be at least in the computer, it's easy to see.
Sure.
If that's okay.
Yeah.
And then I would personally like to go back and talk about in general, you have to have a section on recycling and stuff, because this does say solid waste and recycling work. We kind of don't address recycling because we're not doing very much of it. And we really like to hold that for later.
Okay.
Can I drive this boat?
Sure.
I knew I had a captain's license. So let's go to section 2. The purpose.
What page you on? 3?
3.
Yeah.
Zach asks that I paraphrase it a little bit in the comments, but he was questioning whether to ensure all domestic commercial waste generated in the town are disposed of at the transfer station and recycling facility. So he's questioning whether that is accurate, and he wanted to say, residents can also contract with private companies who may dispose of waste such as demolition debris as part of the renovation at another disposal facility. I'm not 100% sure what he was saying with taking this in the night.
Could you repeat that?
Yeah, I mean, his comment basically is that he was questioning whether the language that's in here right now says, the last sentence says, and to ensure that all domestic and commercial waste generated in town are disposed of at the Vassaboro transfer station recycling facility.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what Zach was asking was, well, what if they contract with somebody else and they dispose of it elsewhere? Right?
Yep. Yep.
That's the gist of what I got.
Yeah, good point.
Okay. And then George came back to us and said, how about just rephrasing that last sentence that Zach was having trouble with? By saying, can be disposed of at the transfer station or contract with a private company involved for another disposal. So I'll reword that a little bit, but the concept is, I see what Zach is saying in essence is you were saying everything is generated in town has to go to the transfer station. And George's verbiage says, no, it doesn't, but it can be disposed.
Because there are people that contract with like Riverside or Waste Management.
So are you okay with if I change that language?
See, and I'm looking at the original ordinance, here's the issue. That isn't even written in the original.
I know, we had,
So I don't know where that particular came from. I think it's some wording that was elsewhere in the ordinance.
there was a.
It got moved.
It either got moved or there was a fund. I'd rather, forgive me, Doug, but I'd rather be, sort of looking at what it is as opposed to trying to compare what it was before. Unless you think it's really important right now.
We wanted that in there.
What's that?
I'm sorry, I didn't pick up on that. I mean, if there was language that was removed, that should be in here.
It will be.
Okay,
It
all
will.
right.
Yeah, I think.
It'll be
she
crossed
kept that.
out.
Okay. Yep.
But I was trying to see where it came from. How did we get that language there?
George.
And because I think that's opening up, I don't think that should be
Which,
with the ensure that all domestic and commercial waste generally will be disposed of the Taskforce.
right, and I think way George really fixed that. You understand? George was saying it, that
It doesn't have to all go to the police station. You can, it's your choice to contract out with a private hauler.
Just that any waste that is disposed of has to comply with the rules of this ordinance.
Yeah, that has to come.
from Task.
It's, to me, I mean, it seems pretty black and white the way George has changed it. Either goes to the transfer station or
Else.
it's leaving, go to Juniper Ridge or whatever.
I had a contractor do work on my house and he chose to take his debris to Waterville instead of going here. So it's not unknown. And great big things like old septic tanks, what are you gonna do with them? You can't accept them.
So there was a couple of things I crossed out. And I'm just throwing them under the bus for George as we have.
So usually,
Like bulky waste. Bulky waste consists of, we had added but not limited to, and he's taking out but not limited to some of these, because that, to me, if I understand correctly, doesn't make any sense. In this case, it is construction and demolition. It's not, it doesn't have to be broadened with the qualifier, but limited to.
But not limited to.
It's crossed out. It's going to be.
Is there any, do we want to pigeonhole ourselves to the definition that bulky waste only consists of these items? Is there an opportunity that it may?
I mean, you can bulky waste, kind of boats come in, hot tubs come in, all those bulk waste.
But both would be different.
So if the definition, I mean, if we don't have some kind of,
Well,
yeah,
why did you?
You're really putting yourself in a corner there.
Why did you cross that? Yeah, we had put it in all these places after last meeting of the meeting. But I left it in since.
Oh, yeah.
I think we probably should have that in there. Yeah.
I probably shouldn't agree also.
So we'll put that back
All
in.
right, go put it back in.
All right.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I'm getting a little confused.
I thought there was a specific bulk waste and a real specific thing. So that's what, anyway, that's why I wanted to leave it in there.
All right.
Yeah. Okay. The next issue was on page 4 under municipal solid waste. Throw myself under the bus. This solid waste, more commonly known as trash or garbage, consists of everyday items we use and then throw away. And SW comes from our homes, schools, hospitals, and businesses. And I actually thought that was problematic. One, because there may be businesses that generate things like hazardous waste. I know we're going to get in trouble with it. It's not always thing from businesses, but maybe they can say that. The other thing I was thinking about, well, what about churches, libraries, municipal buildings, and other things? There could be municipal waste from those entities too.
We said we pick stuff in church, we pick stuff in. We can't take as a space. That's why we.
Can't take house waste possible too.
No fireworks.
So what does it make sense just to get rid of that license? Let's say where the municipal waste comes from, our homes, schools, hospitals, and businesses, or such as, or churches, libraries, municipal buildings.
No, people who come here, something. We're not supposed to take any fireworks, it's in place.
So would we be in trouble if we just did MSW, more commonly known as trash or garbage, consists of everyday items we use and we throw away, period?
We want to say everyday household items or something like that, or we,
Specifically make it the trouble we can get in. Let's keep it as general as possible. Just taking out that last sentence, I think says it all.
yeah. Yeah, I agree.
So there is on the EPA website, solid waste, municipal solid waste, commonly known as trash or garbage. Consists of everyday items we use and then throw away, such as product packaging, flat grass clippings, furniture, clothing bottles, food scraps, newspapers, appliances, paint, and batteries. This comes from our homes, schools, hospitals, and businesses. I think that's.
I agree. We should have some ambiguity when it comes to be a little bit more vague, I think is better.
Get rid of comes from.
I mean, and inevitably there's going to be hazardous waste in the streamline trash line as well. I mean, from batteries depends, certain types of things of that nature that gets put in the trash, diapers, it's.
But I mean, we can't specifically take, there used to be a doctor's office here. Instead of buying it. It used to be downtown.
Mhm.
Do we want to add such as, it's just an example, product packaging, grass clippings, furniture, clothing, bottles, food scraps, newspapers, appliances, paint.
I think we should focus on keeping it limited here, and then any specific would go into our workbook that
Yeah.
George.
His handbook.
Yeah,
That's the definition of statements. Solid waste. So if someone sees that and says, well, solid waste, so we can put grass clippings in the phone.
So I'm just scratching out blessing. Okay.
yes.
All right, next is recyclables. This is the list. Shall include corrugated blocks, material, plastic glass, metal containers, scrap metal, waste oil, mixed paper, automotive batteries, white goods, and other materials deemed recyclable by pound. And we don't take those things and we separate them. We don't. We do a couple.
Or we change to May, and that gives us flexibility if we do.
Well, we're defining what recyclables are, we're not saying.
But the shall is the determination is say, I mean, that's all inclusive, right? Where it may include.
So then, so that's what George said in his red, can include these things. I think that takes away the scary shall. And then the next step, the next part of the paragraph is currently is mandated that all corrugated cardboard shall be separated and recycled into designated container of the transfer station. But don't you take one oil and I think
That's
not a shall.
It's not mandated. Mm. Take out, that's the choice, but if we bring this stuff in. So, any hazardous waste anyway is in state laws and stuff. Happens in state.
So it's so we should keep that in for it's mandated.
I mean, we don't mandate paper, mandate, it's not mandated, it's by choice, if we want to recycle, we don't recycle anyways.
So that's- I'm gonna say, so that corrugated mandate was an amendment to the
Original.
solid waste ordinance. Right. So I wonder if it's more important to have that stand out somewhere. I don't know what, I mean, it was a separate one, separate. Well,
So maybe we should have a separate recycling section that says recycling, maybe a line item.
We could,
And this is current mandated recycling.
we could move that up to definitions as corrugated cardboard, where it'd be bold, and then as part of that definition, it shall be recycled, either way.
It's not a bad idea. That lets it stand out instead of trying to find another place to stick it in here. See any good place for it.
We don't have one, and that was
Yeah.
one of my comments was, should we add a separate section, recyclables? Could be something along the lines of, at present, or currently, it's mandated to do this. But as market commodities or technologies change, this may be amended or something.
If you put something like that in the ordinance, it requires a vote.
That's what I voted on.
Right, I'm just saying, but based on any kind of amendments that changed by the will of the people for recycling, if we put it in there like what you've suggested, it would require a vote at the town
At the time.
at either June or November to approve the vote.
So could we put some vague language about saying that as commodities go, commodities open up? Recycling may include items as defined by the operation. So the vote that they would do on the ordinance is if and when commodity markets open up, we're gonna take advantage of it.
The street business.
It's all gonna get reviewed by the attorney anyway.
Yeah, I'll put it in, see if it applies.
So if I understand correctly, we'll make a separate section.
Yep.
And call it recycling ordinance. And most of it is gonna be just vague, we'll refer to the recycles definition, talk about the currently it's mandated.
Mhm.
We want to do that in the ordinance.
So we have.
Or do we leave that out too?
Well, we got an amendment, so back in one of the days, it was said all corrugated cardboard and leaching gardens should be made, so leaching garden which came from the bond that was asking, so. That was part of the ordinance too. Those two items was cardboard and leaching.
We still do that?
We
We should have that.
Okay.
So do you want those specifics in?
Because when you go down to where it says.
Yeah.
Second, let's say, okay, it's mandated. Which one is mandated second?
All right, so those two can go into recycle, we'll make another section, recycling section
that's the wording.
of the original. Okay. So we'll put that in a separate section, and then we'll also, in that section, refer to any change, they say something like any changes in market or any changes in communities. What's it?
The place in Bangor, if they ever come through with the zero sort thing, it's gonna change a bunch of this, isn't it?
We want to change any of it, I think, unless they're gonna want.
Because we don't handle it.
No, I was just thinking if market commodities change and the Hampton facility doesn't want glass, but we want to.
Yeah.
We want glass, we could through the operations manual. mandate people to separate the glass too. Even if we put in this recycling section, mandated recycling and market commodities open will be addressed in the version plan. Well,
It's gonna be added special.
So this,
Go ahead.
this amendment was to specifically include this in section 4. So that's under the purpose, well, it's under the authorized use.
statement.
So that, this amendment is to amend section 4. Section 4, subsection 2. I'm just thinking the right place for that wording about recycling and stuff. It's on the following. Section 4.
Authorized use.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's,
Good point, Doug. That spells out what we're directing.
yeah,
Yeah, I agree.
George just reminded me that part of that recyclables, when we had the list that may contain these things, also says, and other materials deemed recyclable by the town, which is in the definition.
Yeah.
And Mary, can you tell me what you just said?
It's exactly that.
Other materials may be added after discussion. I would say the manager must.
Yeah. Thank you. So the other question was, and I think we'll address it with this new subsection down at transfer station. The old one, but, it now reads, transfer station refers to a facility that is constructed and managed to store, dispose and or process solid waste and we want to add and recyclable to intended to get rid of GH. Intended to be transported to another outlet. So that includes transfer station as responsibility for solid waste and in section.
I'd like to just make one adjustment to the transfer station manager. It's I think it's important to recognize that the town manager is the individual, he or she, that has the overall authority on the day-to-day operations. So to specify that somebody below this town manager is responsible to oversee or properly operate just seems definitive to me. I think that it should be probably is responsible for the day-to-day or the something along the lines in coordination with the town manager. I don't know if Aaron feels the same way or.
Let me see if I can address that,
We
Chris.
had that.
And I'm,
Under the oversight of.
we do have that. So
Yeah.
Chris, this is just referring to the town man, to the station manager, transfer station manager. Doesn't say anything about hierarchy or anything else. And that what your concern is addressed in 5.
Mhm.
And when we get there, let's make sure it does, because there are two different things that were added that you can leave both. Sounds like we have anything out there. I think it addresses who has overall responsibility is the town manager, and that's the administration. Okay. So in section 4 on page 6, Chris asks in response to proof of residency is required in order to permit verification of residency shall be made by showing at least 2 of the following: valid vehicle registration, rental agreement, property tax bill, current mail, and our driver's license.
Yeah.
And Chris asks, is it worth adding language in the ordinance that requires apartment units with more than, I guess it's one second, stuff. Is it important to add any of the ordinance that requires apartment units with more than 4 units to track with commercial hauler that provides units? And they're just saying absolutely.
Sorry, I lost you.
Okay, let me try to get-
Where are we at now?
So right now we're on page 6.
Thank you. Okay.
And the question is, should we add language? Chris wanted to know, should we add language to the ordinance that requires apartment dwelling units with more than 4 apartment buildings with more than 4 units to contract with a commercial hauler and that they provide the containers? George totally agrees. Chris,
You have the ability to handle those big green boxes.
They wouldn't be going to the transfer station.
the
Yeah, it was-
commercial haulers can bring.
Yes, I mean, if the. One of the commercial halls, apartments, something like that, they all 3 or 4 apartments.
I think for me, I'm a user fee type of mentality. And comparing what a multi-unit apartment building uses for trash on a single tax source, property source versus Meme or Pepe that pay equally the same amount of taxes but use less services. The apartment building's a business, and that's the way I look at it. So I guess I'm just posing the question, and it's not a hill I'm going to die on. It's just, should we be subsidizing businesses when it comes to these things? And a lot of communities do it. I actually think Waterville does it, where they,
Well, and they're purple. They have their purple bags, so they'll pick up anything as long as they buy purple bags. It's where they get the money. Yeah, but most apartment owners do not do that. They get dumpsters or private pit. So they don't want to pay.
so either through Casella or what have you.
The specified in this ordinance that we do take business waste at the transfer station, so if the apartments consider business, we do take that waste.
Like I said, I'm just putting it out there, whether it goes or doesn't go. It was just a suggestion.
But if I live in an apartment with 6 units, I as an apartment dweller cannot take my individual trash to the facility. I have to dispose of it in the contractors. I mean, I can't, can I deal with it as an individual? Can I take my own trash to the to the center? I mean, it's here, the implication is I have to dispose of my trash into the into the hall, into the
Communal.
hauler that I can't do it myself. I can't take my own trash over.
I guess,
Or if I want to take my metal over, maybe they're not accepting of it. And they seem to take my individual thing as an apartment dweller away from me, that I can't do it individually. So if I come over and want a permit, I have to give you my apartment number, and you say, "Oh no, you can't take it over. You have to dispose of it in the in the apartment manager's bin." That's why I'm just looking at it as an individual. What can I do as an individual? Do I have to dispose of it in the bin, or can I take it over myself?
I think asking, we're having I think it's a good idea to maybe have this in the ordinance somehow. Because I think first of all, the landlord is probably gonna want to do that, so they don't have individual trash bags laying all over.
I agree, I'm not opposed.
And I also don't think by asking for that it prohibits you from doing it, because we'd love to see where we get there.
It was just a very minor thing.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. It's a good point. But I think it needs to state that container, somehow we need to make sure that container gets hauled to a different disposal facility. We can't handle that, so.
correct.
So, how do we make sure that gets hauled off to the seller?
We've never accepted any of those. That years ago, we used to accept, there used to be a roll-off.
Yeah.
Company in town, or a compactor truck would go around and pick up stuff. But he would pick up stuff from his little, and bring up the bathroom years ago. And it's like, there's no guarantee where the stuff's coming from, so we're not gonna accept it, plus he had everything. Apartment buildings, stuff they have in dumpster up front, they don't mandate like that.
Right.
It's like they have, usually everybody just shoves everything they want.
Everything goes in.
We never accepted them. All that in there, we can take this.
But the presumption or the interpretation a little bit is if we're willing to accept that because we talked about accepting apartment waste, personal waste, transfer station. Read all of the whole ordinance. This guy's got a dumpster there on site. Sort of saying you can bring it to Vassal. What is he gonna do with it? So, and I think we're gonna require it to be in an apartment complex. I think it needs to be specified that that's all right. Just like some wording here that somebody threw in about.
Zach's language, I got that we recognize that trash has to go someplace, and the expectation is that we're requiring it to go somewhere. Whether it's here or a different location, that's how I interpreted what Zach was saying. As opposed to here, what I'm saying is how I feel about it is, some of these larger users, maybe we need to consider how we resolve that waste. But I mean, like I said, it's just an idea, just a thought.
We created some incidences in the past too that someone would have a dumpster at their house and then they would send it off somewhere and bill it to the town of Aspenborough saying it's coming from Aspenborough. The things that we said, we didn't send this to the transfer station, so we shouldn't pay. I didn't send it out of the facility, so why are we paying for this dumpster? Somebody else, it was coming from Aspenborough, so we should pay. That's why we check the bills and then it's verified coming out of the transfer. We pay. We won't pay for it.
Saying meeting is a very different place. Chris is saying is you've got 4 or more units, you've got 4 or more households dumping trash, but you only have 1 taxpayer. But doesn't that taxpayer as a business, as a multi-unit thing, pay a lot more than I do as a private
Yes.
citizen?
All his external expenses goes into rent.
Right, but I'm saying, so does that entity contribute 4 times what I pay? I mean, in fact, do the town's costs in terms of trash removal and get covered by the increased tax revenue that you get from multi-unit?
Used to say that the multi-unit building's worth more than your home.
Guys are apples to apples.
I think a lot of towns don't pick up at multi-unit properties, just like they don't pick up at businesses,
But we don't pick up, we don't count.
Right.
Private.
But it's still a collection issue, even whether they're picking up or not. Even the places that pick up, I understand we don't pick up, but it's still going back and we're still handling garbage and getting rid of it. So a lot of towns address it that way already.
I mean, if things are status quo, they're status quo.
No, I get what you're saying.
It's a good point.
Well, we can come back to this.
Man,
I just don't. Somehow you'd have to identify those properties and issue the permits accordingly, right? You need to get a permit, you gotta have the address that's identified as a coordinate building. What have you? Just trying to think through the process if that was something like that was done.
You could have a 4-unit building with 1 person per unit, have 4 people, and have a duplex, have 8 people. By measuring apartments, it's necessarily accurate waste.
Yeah.
I'm on the record for a pay for throw, so it's.
I would come too if we had.
But it's okay. We can disregard that. It's fine.
I think we should. So how would you like to do it?
Just like it was an idea. If there's not consensus to support it, then it's
Leave it out for now?
yeah, sure.
The next question we had was about, we added language about commercial haulers. It's actually added the same language in 2 spots. And So I just question which spot, and this is the first one in this section 4. It's commercial haulers must register with the transfer station manager annually and agree in writing to abide by all rules and regulations of the town of the town of Bassboro solid waste and recycling ordinance. And so George recommends that this is the appropriate place to leave it. Opposed to, if you want to know where the other place was in section 5. It was in administration and management responsibility. Which kind of didn't make sense there.
Does it address the repercussions for not following that? I mean, is there any teeth behind this?
So we have that's I think is that something we haven't talked about at all, which is section 8 right now, penalties. So we could hold off on that for a second or for a couple of minutes.
Do we have a form, George? A town authorized form that they fill out? Probably should, if we're gonna require it, probably should have some form. To have on file. Yeah, some.
Didn't you bring that up at the last meeting, Doug? That's some comments about commercial haulers.
We only have 3.
I brought it up that we should deal with. I think this, what we have here is fine, and I think this is the right place to have it. Part of the form, I mean, that would be an internal form. Just how much information do you need? Give the guy's name and address, maybe his driver's license. You know, statement saying that, I hereby promise only to bring waste from the town of Bassett.
I think it would be also worthy
Fine.
on the annual form that they revisit what the penalties are and what the expectations are. And maybe we should reference it in the ordinance as we do with other ordinances. Fill out forms established by the town. In the same spot where the commercial haulers must register, just simply put on a form spot provided by the whatever, on a form.
So the following sentence in that paragraph right there. Commercial haulers must register with the town transfer station manager annually and agree in writing to abide by all regulations of the town Taskforce solid waste and recycling ordinance. And then add the sentence.
Utilizing a form provided by the town.
You should that be for anybody getting sticker utilizing the place? Could everybody sign something there? Is the rules and if you agree to this, you understand that this is all stuff from my class.
Is that common?
Not that I know, but
I don't think so. I think it's a commercial hauler, it's just a whole different ballgame.
So actually, it says annually and agree in writing.
Okay, are you writing on a napkin, writing it on a?
No, it's right. Sure.
Yeah, just specify that.
What about the say and agree and get rid of in writing?
Are you agreeing verbally?
Agree in writing.
I think it's a written agreement today, but it was signature on a form. You've got the waive later on, and the guy comes in with a bunch of stuff to try to.
Right.
I mean, where the form comes from is. Always sure that it's all written down. Well, I
That's
agree.
what Chris was saying.
I wonder how other towns do it, just commercial haulers.
Well, penalties may change from time to time or what the expectations are, so. I mean,
I'm fine with in writing, but I'm not having. Form. You're right, it's in writing.
In writing.
Thing. How about Hannibal of the transfer station?
They're registering with the transfer station manager.
Yeah.
So I guess I was, waiting for the fact that these commercial halls take care of the business.
Agree in writing doesn't imply that that's something.
I know, but we never defined it. So, as Chris said, it could be on someone's napkin.
What you like.
That's ketchup.
Well, it's being a little picky.
Commercial haulers must register with the town station manager annually and agree in writing on a town approved form. And to abide by all rules and regulations of the town of Bassville solid waste. Well, we went through. There's a question about on the next paragraph about since we no longer define landscape, do we need it there? And George says we can just, he thinks we can just delete it. So it says, it says, it shall be unlawful for any person to burn or incinerate any solid waste within the town. Other than an approved incinerator. And what it had said was, it shall be unlawful for any person to burn or incinerate any solid waste in town other than landscape refuge. Other than, so just get rid of other than land.
So that means you can burn anything. Before we did it, sort of restricted what you could burn to landscape refuge, which would be leaves and branches, and things like that. Now we're saying, the tires and everything,
Incinerator.
Sure, that's what.
No.
Unlawful for any person to burn or incinerate any solid waste. Is yard waste considered solid?
Mentions, statutory provision, regulations really don't.
Or you know what, we got rid of solid waste. Right, but it's municipal solid waste, so we think let's put that. How about this? How about it shall be unlawful for any person to burn or incinerate any municipal solid waste.
Sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
right, section 5.
Before we go on to 5, I just have some concerns about proof of residency. Says here, shall have 2 of the following: valid vehicle registration, rental agreement, property tax bill, current mail or driver's license. Some people don't drive, they don't have cars. So that's 2. I propose valid state ID, maybe.
Does that give your residence? I mean, your town residence?
It should give your, I believe it gives your address.
Does.
Yeah.
It's where you lived 2 moves ago.
George, because we've gone round and round with people on this issue in the past.
Utility bill, bank statement.
I mean, current mail would probably do that. I'm wondering, is this going to be enough for you to give people options who are, I don't have a rental agreement, I don't have a car, I don't have this, I just moved into town, I have very little to show you that I'm a resident here.
So usually I tell them, they look to live with somebody. Written statement from the person, stating this person living with them, such as what who they are.
So that's what I was driving at is basically an oath. And that's something the Secretary of State will allow the polls. When you're just gonna burn out of your home, no, there are ways to get people to vote still. So I'm wondering if we use an oath. They're basically taking an oath saying that, my honor, this is the fact. It's a statement. It's exactly what you're talking about.
You're seeking it to be notarized?
Notarized. I mean, I hate to make a mountain out of a molehill.
Yes.
I just had a young lady call this morning. She said she moved in her mother of Bassville. She didn't have any information. She didn't have anything yet. So I said, have your mother write a letter to us. And she wrote a letter, signed it, name, address. who she was.
Hmm.
What is living there currently living,
Kind of common sense approach.
Yeah.
Instead of, okay, gonna go down, see a notary.
right, so I guess we went with that, so,
So should we add that language statement? Something along those lines from who? Roommate? I mean, I don't know how to word that. I just think it would be good to have a little more in here, just to.
Do we have a but not limited to statement?
No, there, oh, yeah, yeah, I like that.
You don't have to pledge your firstborn.
Right. I like that, not limited to. But I'd also add valid state ID.
Can it hurt?
You know what a valid state ID?
We're going too deep into this. Come on, this is my language here.
So if we say not limited to, it covers it. The valid state ID would work.
Yes.
Okay.
It seems that George, you're the one that makes that decision, so
Right.
you may have other options.
and that's why it says, or other information, sometimes we should put in other information. That we put. It's, it should be so easy, as if we live in town, I should be able to show 2 proofs of residency, so that, and if you just currently, the mayor, yes,
It would be, that last. Before.
Other proof of valid residency satisfactory person is shown.
Well, it's not vague, but I mean, it still works. Kind of says, okay, convince me.
But I mean, George is responsible for the trash that leaves, so.
He's doing. Yes, in essence.
So this is a town of gospel sticker program. So we should use
Well,
the
that's,
same.
yeah, I think he's.
This is what we hand out to everybody there, so the kind of comes to them, what you guys for.
Mhm.
This is why we asked for it.
So get rid of the not limited to and just add for other proof of valid residency satisfactory to the person issuing the permit. But not limited to.
Yeah.
George God.
How's everybody feel about putting 10 more minutes into this and seeing what we get done?
Yeah, we're almost done.
Okay.
Oh,
So administration and management responsibility, here's, I think, what we addressed, Chris, your concern. There's sort of like 2 town manager things. One says, first is the town manager and or the assigned town agents should appear to be ordinance as voted on by the citizens of Taskforce effective June, whatever it's gonna be. 2024. Now, I think, isn't that redundant with what this ordinance is? I mean, isn't that the ordinance? Don't the town manager and assigned have to adhere to this ordinance?
There were several specific spots in the ordinance that gave the town the manager authority that they don't have, in my opinion. That only comes from the town manager by statute, Title 30. So that's the form of government we have. Whoever's our town manager has overall say on the day-to-day activities. So it needs to be, as far as I'm concerned, documented in the ordinance that that's who that person answers to. George can't unilaterally decide to close the station down. It's got to call the town manager.
No, but that's the second paragraph, the second sentence.
But the power of this ordinance is from the vote taken by the citizens on X date. If it doesn't pass, then the prior ordinance that's already in effect is what
Reverts.
Sure.
Second paragraph is a better one. I think. There are 2 paragraphs in section 5, the first 2.
Yeah.
The second one is a better one, I think.
That's what we had, but I think Chris wanted to add the first one as well because of the concern. That's what the discussion, we had the second one that's been in there, which gives
Say
the
it's
town
not-
manager is the administrator of this ordinance and has final responsibility. Administration, so. But everyone,
Sure, whatever.
I did think then this, you are much better at this.
No, just, but it doesn't matter to me which one we go with. I mean, it's just putting it out there.
What do people feel, Jim,
I'm fine with.
first, the second one, or second one?
The second one presents,
Second.
it establishes a
Second
chain
one
of
says-
command. We mentioned earlier.
Says, I don't care.
Sorry.
No.
The second paragraph establishes a chain of command,
Mhm.
which we previously discussed.
Good. Second.
Not the one that says or. Next one.
I'm the administrator of this ordinance, I'm responsible for administration of training.
I'll do it.
All right, that is it, except for, we want to bring back to, just, on page 7, the last paragraph for section 6. That was the commercial haulers must transfer, must register with the transfer station, blah, 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 but that's scratched out.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, so here's what we have to do. How much teeth do you want to put into if somebody doesn't follow the ordinance? How does that work? It's structured with what looks like late penalty fees. I think there's full. And so George had taken a look at other town ordinances and they include fines, but yeah, maybe should we just put fines established by the operator's manual? I don't know what to do.
Select board sets the penalties and stuff in town. And fees.
So does that have to be in here? Should that be in here, in the ordinance? To the select board.
I'm thinking to things like the subdivision ordinance, something about penalty in the actual ordinance.
Fee is one thing.
Fee
fine
is one
another.
thing, yeah, exactly. I never believed in phone what the fee will be.
Okay, so I got the misdemeanor.
And that would be,
It says misdemeanor.
maybe when we get to the point of having this reviewed by an attorney. I think it's good to keep it in.
Penalties?
Yeah.
So you don't discuss it, whether the penalty should be more, or you're saying that's what the select board is. It doesn't happen anymore. It's just-
No, I mean, it brings a good question. I'm just trying to think about how we've dealt with issues where in the past.
Typically an ordinance.
Has there ever been penalty issue?
We've been penalty,
Has there ever been one? Has there ever been an issue?
I tried to enforce it times and,
Police chief would be the only one I think
Say,
that would be able to enforce the
I mean, I don't
penalty
make
portion.
we try to, pass it on to the responsible party and then what they do with it. So, yeah, one, two.
Maybe those penalties also talk about, some kind of progressive discipline action where, if it's a commercial unit that violates it too many times may not be welcome back.
Yeah.
Anybody?
About any person, person's firm, or corporation who violates any of the provisions of this ordinance shall be deemed guilty of misdemeanor. And upon conviction, I'm not sure where that conviction is, shall be fined based on the guidelines.
So I'm interested about this, about the fine portion of it. I mean, an ordinance is just what it is. It's only valid inside the town limits.
Mhm.
So, I mean, it could be $25. It could be, I guess, conceivably up to 500 or what have you, depending on. And then, or is it the idea that if they violate the penalty, that our code enforcement officer or whoever that is responsible for the paperwork aspect of it is prepares it to go to court, and then it's our attorney that deals with it at a district court or superior court, I guess. The only experience I have with this is, what's that?
Wouldn't be district for misdemeanor, it'd be somebody like Libby.
Probate.
Not
It
probate.
talks about the police chief enforcing the provisions of the ordinance. And other applicable state law. So. He would get the ball rolling, I would think. As far as issuing summons or whatever. Handle the court system.
The only experience I have with any kind of violation of the select board is when we did the 14 pre-sale at the recommendation of the attorney. We did that administratively.
Karen.
And have a hearing to declare it a nuisance or a dangerous building, yeah. I think it's a good idea to have a penalty section in this, most do. Most ordinances do that I've dealt with, or at least they reference a state statute for regarding penalties, but it's good to be clear. You may want to put, instead of upon misdemeanor or whatever, shall be fined, may be fined, kind of leave it up to the discretion of the person. It's a first time offense, you know, you can have a chat with them and say, don't let this happen again, instead of saying you shall be fined or you shall be penalized, you know.
But doesn't it have to go to a court system or something to be found guilty?
Yes, so the town can issue the fine,
Yeah,
and if they refuse to pay it, they have to go to court. So yeah, you'll want to mention that in here.
well,
Exactly.
I guess I don't think the town could say, I'm finding you for this.
It's a penalty. Penalizing them. So you would take it to district court essentially if
Right.
they don't pay that.
Right, they gotta go to court, and
Right.
the judge is gonna wanna know what our guidelines.
Yeah.
What does the town want for a fine? You're gonna have-
That's why you gotta have that in here. Yeah.
It's really the recommendation of the attorney when they.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
The cost is
Well, you want to put a thing in there about having, you know, if you're the guilty party, you're responsible for paying the town's reasonable court and attorney fees as well.
You know, and then I'm curious, you know, just on the flip side, you know, what happens if, I don't know. I mean, I really don't know. Just what happens if something that we're not supposed to get thrown gets kind of through, but gets up to Bangor or whatever that we're sending it to, and then it's determined that it's not acceptable waste or what have you. Does that ever happen, George, where it's left this transfer station and then deemed unacceptable?
The only problem I ever had was when I had 5 skunks in a dumpster.
carry on.
Dumped on the tip of the door, they called me and said, don't send us 5 skunks again.
Generates methane.
I haven't had an issue with.
All right, well, I guess that's a moot point then. All right. Go ahead, George.
But I do got a question on, so if we find that if we suspect someone's bringing out of town trash, we really find mail from another town. You do a little investigating, you search online and say, hey, this isn't coming from this town, or whatever. I mean, I reach out to chief of police. Is he going to respond to this and clearly go down to the resident or whoever it is doing this, investigate it and ask questions? And we would ask questions, like, you know, in the past, we've actually taken off and gone down to an address to verify it was coming from that address, and it wasn't coming from there. And is that my job, or do I send the police?
I think that's, for me personally, I think that's a conversation you have with the town manager, and then you guys decide what the best approach is through the town's resources. It's not.
I'm still not sure how we want to handle this section. I want to talk to the lawyer first, because right now, it says to me, someone violates the provision of this ordinance shall be deemed guilty of misdemeanor. And nothing happens until they're convicted of that misdemeanor.
Yeah, that clause is problematic, yeah.
There's probably old language too that carried forward. I mean, everybody's innocent until proven guilty. So yeah,
I don't know if this town has any authority to issue fine.
Sure.
in the
Yeah.
ordinance, yes.
So any person, blah, 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 violates any provisions of this ordinance shall be penalized not less than $50. Just take that whole deemed guilty of misdemeanor. Oh, it does say it upon conviction. It could be worded better. You know, failure to pay the fine. I honestly would probably steal it from somebody else's ordinance, the wording.
That's not even, we're one step ahead, failure to pay the fine. We haven't even defined what,
Right. Well, you got to figure out what the amount's going to be.
right, so,
Is that
so if they violate it, we don't have to wait till they go to the court to collect the fine, or if they deem violating it, they're not allowed to dump anymore, or. Police chief, let them know about it.
I think we probably should get a recommendation from the attorney. How to handle the penalty fees. What do you think, Aaron?
Agree.
Sounds like a good job for a lawyer.
So my concern about this is that, again, as I said, the way I read it, is they have to go to the court before anything happens. I think we should have some language in there that George or the town manager has authority to prevent them from dumping if they're being violated. So if they violate it once, they get caught. You can't dump them again, or make a judgment about that, or something along those lines. It doesn't say this.
The police chief has the overall authority to
Enforce the provisions of the
enforce it.
Yeah, I've refused people in the past that we've, many times, and they kept going back in and said, "I'm not taking no more. Take the trash from wherever you bring it from, take it back where you bring it from, and take it elsewhere, you know, where you." I mean, for people that they get angry on.
Well, can they sue you and say, hey, look, it's not in your town ordinance?
I believe there is some language to talk about.
I'm not suggesting that George can't do his job. I think, I mean, maybe I'm conflating that, you know, from the difference between actually going out and then doing an investigation to find somebody. I think we should leave that to the whoever the fire and the police chief is, as opposed to bringing in toxic waste and try to sneak it into the whatever. You know, that's clearly a difference. You know, he's expected to make sure that we're putting acceptable waste into the waste stream.
He's responsible for
But George-
determining what's acceptable.
Right, George determines whether they're violating the law.
He has the responsibility to enforce this ordinance by
What,
overseeing it properly operating and maintaining.
what comes next after he determines that someone's violating the ordinance? What's next?
You know, I've come down, spoke there in the past. Some situations.
I think the expectation, I guess, would him to build his case and bring it to Aaron, and then Aaron would.
We will call the person, talk to them. We generally can work things out with people, you know.
Yeah, I mean, so this is my job. This is what I do every day, right? And something like this, initially you want to have a conversation, make a note of that you have had this conversation, and if it's an ongoing thing, then you move on to the penalty stage. It's just something, then they get hit with a penalty. They don't pay the penalty, you take them to court. Then you have the clause when the town is the prevailing whatever, then you will pay the town's a reasonable court and attorney fees. I mean, that it works.
You'll tell them that here's a penalty, pay it, and we're done here. Or
But
don't pay
that's-
it, then it's gonna
Right.
get much more involved.
Right. Then you're going to pay our attorney fees. And I mean, it's clear as day right here. You're violating it. You got to have some kind of proof. But, you know, you don't want it to get to that. That's why you want to have a conversation with the person first and say, we don't want to do this.
Yeah.
Town doesn't
That's how
want to
we
be
handle
handled.
Well, that's how you handle it, but what should be in the ordinance?
You got to leave the penalty section in there. But I would put may instead of shall. That way you're not pigeonholed into having to penalize someone every single time.
But you're okay with the language about being building misdemeanor and all that?
No.
Do you have language in whatever you say you do this every day?
I can.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
So then vetted by an attorney.
The transfer station manager oversees that. Do we need to specifically give him authority to refuse service, so to speak, I mean, refuse
For non-payment,
area.
for non-payment?
Well, no, just not for non-payment, but for, you know, they show up there and they've got a load of stuff that the judge determines it came from another town and it's not Vassalboro, so. You know, he says, okay, shame on you, you can't dump it, but do we give him authority to say not dump it? Do we have
Yes.
authority to refuse?
He does. He has, does here under section 5, he has a responsibility to strictly enforce his ordinance. So if they're dumping hazardous waste or whatever, he has that authority to.
Or if they're not a resident or what have you.
I just want to make sure that it's clear that he has the authority to refuse.
I mean, if it's not.
Transfer.
Yes, it's right here in section 5.
Yeah.
Which one?
It shall be the duty of the transfer station manager to strictly enforce. Pretty clear. Section 5. I don't know the page because
It's the big paragraph.
Third paragraph in section, page 7.
Fourth and fifth paragraph. I just didn't know if that's
It does.
clear enough.
Yep.
He can
I think
refuse.
it's.
I hear what you're saying. I mean, maybe that's a question we asked to get answered. I mean, it does say he has responsibility to enforce it. Talks about, you know, what's allowed, what's not allowed.
All right, it does say the attendant may refuse to accept any solid waste that is deemed hazardous.
AJ, yeah. This is hazardous though.
Yeah,
Could be something else going.
He's saying it does not comply with this ordinance.
separated it, yeah.
I think though, if it gets to the point where we're intending on levying a fine or penalty or something that goes to court, then we should really lean on our police chief to do that investigation just for by the nature of that position, what they do.
So with that language where it says that is deemed hazardous or the not separated, are we talking recycling here? With separated?
Well, someone comes in, they're gonna throw. their,
Bulky waste
bulky waste and compactors, not like that.
Gotcha. So I'm wondering if that's where that's where your hook is right there.
Yeah.
It says that is deemed, okay, so this here. Any solid waste that is deemed hazardous or that is not separated in accordance with this ordinance may be refused. So you can split hair and say it's not in accordance with our ordinance. So therefore I'm refusing it.
So it's essential.
I think so.
That's the big front basket of the point.
Yeah, that's the important one. You're gonna argue otherwise. Well, good luck with it. Yeah.
So big stuff is, I'm gonna write up a subsection for recyclables, a couple of sentences on that. And you're gonna send me some language for the penalty section. We'll send that as well to people. I think we covered everything else. I mean, everything that I had highlighted. So. You guys did good.
So are we talking about this the next meeting?
Oh, same.
We're gonna talk about scheduling a public hearing at the next meeting. So
Do the public hearings, the last select board meeting in February. That would give us time, correct? We have 2 meetings. So we have this meeting coming up and then the following week, and then that would give us that last, and that would be that's the last day.
When do we meet again to discuss this? I mean, I want to make sure that Amy has time to get the marked up original documents, and we can see what's brought in it. I don't know, I'm hoping there will be no discussion. You know, like, I'm worried that there's some things that got dropped on the wayside.
Yeah.
That we need to think about.
We're gonna take care of that, right?
Yeah, so.
Yes, she's going to, I just want to make sure we have a time to not be rushed to get it to the public hearing.
So that's what I need to do is get the language, get you guys craft something, and I guess what we can do is via email, have a conversation as to is everybody happy or not. Get this document fully changed. And everybody has to sign off on the document fully changed. And then I will compare and contrast the old. I just, if this document keeps on moving, then me trying to mark up the other one, it doesn't make any sense.
I agree. I just want to make sure we've got enough time to see that.
Right.
Marked up.
When's the first
I can get this
budget
done back.
session?
You see
Which one?
Mm,
Not our internal window.
I can get some.
Probably towards the end of February.
I like to get things on.
I'm getting crunched.
Yeah. So that's why we gotta,
Maybe not.
I wanted to get this done this month, but it's,
As far as,
we really need to have this in front of the board by the first February meeting.
February 1st,
What board? Select board?
3 weeks.
I'm sorry, February 8th.
And I'm sorry, is that before or after the public?
So this is an advisory board. So there's no authority to move an ordinance forward. So we need to vote on it at the select board, right, to accept the recommendations. And then do a public hearing. We also need it to go to the attorney to make sure that it's reviewed
After the board?
after board, attorney, public hearing.
Yeah, I mean,
Your first meeting in February, then.
8th.
It's today's the.
We have, so the next select board meeting next week, the 25th of January. Then the next, after that would be February 8th.
So I anticipate that it's just going to be a matter of, considering that Mike and I have both been in the last couple of meetings, that it's just a matter of checking the box and moving it towards the public hearing.
I don't envision a lot of change, just that it's not a lot of time to get.
14 days.
Let's say can get drafted within the next week here.
He's gonna make changes to this one.
I'm gonna make
and get
changes, and as
feedback,
soon as
and then-
Dave gives me language, you guys all
From,
can get-
okay. Should be able to get that to you tomorrow.
that would be great.
Okay.
Okay, I gotta do by this weekend, but we get to you tomorrow.
So then everyone reviews it and
And what I did last time was if someone gave me something that I thought was really substantive, I put it back out to everybody. But gave me something that I didn't think was going to be controversial, I kept it till everybody gave me their comments and then sent that out.
The only issue is that
Trying to be good about not sending.
Mike's and I's available time, it's going to get pushed coming up because we have our first budget meeting, second,
no, sick.
the 6th, excuse me. And then we'll start meeting every Thursday, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, if I can get everything crafted this weekend, those 2 sections, subsection for the recycling and the penalty. Right, we'll incorporate that in, and then I just need a day or so to get the compare and contrast documents and then go back to you.
So we'll discuss it on the 8th of February.
It's too.
I believe it will.
That's your meeting on the 8th?
Yeah.
So we won't.
I mean, unless there's,
We won't
unless
be
people feel, unless there's like some, people feel we need to meet, and there's some strong differences.
Do you think, I mean, think we'd be compelled to meet outside of than what all of us reviewing on internet?
No, I don't think so. Just we'll decide. If it's this. Oh, that would be nice.
So whose meeting is this? Who's gonna make a motion to return?
Well, we need to determine the follow-up meeting for when, after we meet with Jeff. So what's the plan to meet after you guys meet with Jeff on the 23rd?
You have a meeting after that? You have a meeting that Thursday, right? You able to carry something to what?
We have a meeting, yeah.
25th, yeah.
23rd and 25th.
Based on what we talked about at 4:30,
All right. So, I know you don't like to, but I think just maybe we can schedule 45 minutes before the select board meeting on
Jeff's presentation. Jeff's feedback.
yeah, to discuss whatever happened on the 23rd, because not all of us are going to be there. And then we can go into the select board meeting. Yeah. That work? Yeah, doesn't have to be. All right. So we have a motion to end the meeting.
So moved.
All those in favor? Thank you, folks.